Welcome back to the Skits and Giggles podcast. I am Pascal, chief instigator of this show and your host. I'm joined by my co-host and resident engineer, the Tom to my Jerry, Bryson. Bryson, how's it going today?
Great, Pascal. I can't believe it's already been a week. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks. We are also joined in our digital studio by the current fan favorite, the podcast debut of the year so far, and the star of episode 1, James Drew of Bike the World, your purveyor of choice for the finer things in mountain biking. James, how's things with you today?
I'm all good. Thank you very much. Doing very well.
Okay. Well, I think before we jump into part 2 of the conversation, I think we just want to pause and say a big thank you for the great feedback that we've received for episode 1. We haven't really launched this show formally, so we're humbled by all the kind messages. To reassure you, we have absolutely no plans of stopping anytime soon, so please keep sharing the show with your friends and give us a shout with any comments you might have. As I mentioned in the intro to episode 1, you can find and subscribe to the Skits and Giggles podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most other platforms where you can find great podcasts. If you just want to say hi, just slide into our DMs on Instagram or find us on the interwebs under skidsandgiggles.com. James, we only briefly talked on the phone yesterday. How are things on your side after episode 1 went out? Did you receive any comments on episode 1 at all?
Yeah, it was. I got quite a few people say, they thought it was really cool and really happy that we've started to do something like this in Switzerland. I'm really looking forward to continuing, actually. I'd like to remind everyone that, this is my opinion, so feel free to get in touch or, correct me if you think I'm wrong.
Okay, that's great. I also, obviously the feedback has been very good and diverse, and I also got quite a few follow-up questions that listeners wanted to hear your perspective on, James. Sure. Maybe we can pick one or two before we jump into today's topic. Is that okay for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Well, one of the more interesting questions comes from my buddy Gene, and it was in relation to our discussion around Pembrey and his initiative to plant a tree for every pedal sold. He wanted to know your perspective on demand pressures from the consumer side for green brand credentials, as he calls it, and if you see brands going the extra mile in that department. What do you got on this?
I think there is pressure today. I'm not sure it's generally from end consumers, but I think it's if you run a more sustainable business and you look at things like packaging, if you make your packaging greener, it probably allows you to save a bit of money as well. So, if you keep things simple, if you maybe don't use a load of plastic and use paper instead, and really try and scale down the amount of packaging that is used, I think that's a really good way to go. I think there's a few different factors that comes into that. I think that has to also do with how brands feel. And
how do you mean?
We're in an industry that manufactures, so we produce material goods. So you use aluminium. Aluminium is not a clean business. So when you do that, and if you're conscious about these kind of things, the environment, which I think most mountain bikers are, as they enjoy the environment. And they don't want to go out and ride around in a load of plastic waste or something like that. I think it's something people think about, and a lot of people will think, okay, what can we do to impact the environment? What can we do to offset our carbon footprint? I'm a big believer in that, and often think, okay, what could I do to make things simpler? How can I drive less? What can I do which doesn't cause me to have a big impact on the environment?
Okay, well, that's a very good point. And as you say, I mean, there's clearly a theme that's on top of people's minds at the minute, and I mean, you can see quite a few brands in the outdoor industry or the bike industry in particular. I mean, I'm thinking of, as we mentioned last week, Pembry. You've also mentioned one of your other brands, Industry 9, is also plastic free, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. They don't use any plastic in their packaging.
Yeah.
Herb stems, it all comes wrapped in recycled paper.
I know. I was just researching. I mean, basically on the back of this question, I was researching a little bit, and there's a big headline from Cannondale towards the back end of last year, where they're gonna basically commit to do their packaging, even for bikes, plastic free, and basically design a new cardboard box that would allow them to do it with any additional plastic based protection. And this whole theme of planting a tree for every item sold or for every dollar earned or whatever other metric you use, I think that is quite common. I mean, I think in the clothing industry it's quite a thing. I mean, I believe Endura, the clothing brand, does it, and here in Switzerland, clearly, if you're around Instagram, you will have seen Nikin, the brand that is also quite heavily investing into planting trees. And then, okay, maybe Bryson, do you have a take on that, or shall we move on to the second one?
Yeah, there's a huge push in our industry for creating sustainability, renewability. I think it goes hand in hand with the fact that we're going outdoors. So we want to preserve, this ability to go outdoors, enjoy nature. It makes a lot of sense, and I've also been carried away with it as well. Even joining trail societies to help make sure you do trail building correctly with sustainable ways to have less impact on the rest of the environment, as well as having a trail that's really robust enough to withstand a lot of traffic. So then you can have more people. And I've noticed in the industry also you have companies which are also making their clothing out of responsibly sourced materials such as down, and also using recycled polyesters and things like this for their weather resistant lines, which is I think we're going a good way with all these efforts.
Okay. Well, I guess we can summarize it in some and an increasing number of players are active in that space and start focusing a little bit more on this. But I think the key takeaway is there's always more that we can do, and I think we should all have a think about what we can do personally to make it greener and make it better for everyone. Maybe. Let's take a second one. Another question we got from a friend of the podcast, Beat, also directed at you, James. What do you think were the biggest changes in the bike industry in the last 5 to 10 years? And what do you think will the next 5 to 10 years bring? Personally, and I just want to say that before, I think could be a topic in its own right. So maybe let's give it the executive summary treatment, James. What do you got?
I would have to say wheels. Wheels and hub sizes is, in my mind, the biggest. Of course, you have changes in drivetrain, from 10 speed to 11 to 12. And
there's 13, by the way.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that.
E-bikes.
Definitely. But if we go from a 10-year span, I mean, 10 years ago we were all riding 26-inch, especially in mountain biking. Now we're all riding 29. I remember when I was working at Kona and these wheel sizes started to come out, and we were all sitting there going, "What? Oh no! Oh, this isn't going to work." But if you look at wheels, I mean, another big one is geometry as well, which is super important these days and makes a huge difference to how a bike rides. And the original 29ers, I mean, they were long. They were long and they were big. And these days, you buy a modern 29er or a new 29er, and they're fantastic. And I think so. This huge push in geometry has come as well to fit the best frame around that wheel size as well, because there are, of course, huge benefits with bigger wheels. You just ride over stuff better. So I think a lot of changes has come through this, and it's also affected drivetrains as well, and chain lines, all of these kinds of things.
Well, I guess that's a if you want to call it a leftover from where the mountain bike really came from, right? So if I think back to my childhood, early teens, basically the technology that was used for mountain biking was glorified stuff from the road scene. So, from hub standards to, wheel to 26-inch wheel was kind of also an older standard that was around from previous days. And, the flange widths and, axle lengths and all the other technology that were around in bikes at the time, they came from road bikes. And so I guess it just took a decade or maybe two to get rid of these historical dead weights and think a bit more freely about what a mountain biking really is and what it really should be doing. So, I guess I think I agree with your assessment in terms of what has changed the most in that regard. What do you think is going to be the big topic for the next 5 to 10 years, James?
Well, I would like to see a valve put on frames so you can fill them full of helium so they become lighter, actually.
Yeah, well, that's maybe you should also lay off the cookies a little bit and the beers and, get that frame a bit lighter before you start complaining about a 10-kilo bike or a 15-kilo bike even.
No, sorry, joking aside, it's a good question. I do believe that geometry will develop more. I think wheels is probably been done. You do hear things like 29 plus and even bigger 32. Wheels. Yeah, 32. But I think there's a limit to where we can go, and I think there'll be a lot of minor changes in the future. I think e-bikes is something that's also going to progress quite a lot. I've already been hearing people are building e-bikes that are sort of around 16, 17 kilos now, and they're really starting to refine that whole industry. Apparently, some of them don't even look like e-bikes anymore. So I do think that's something that's going to be pushed as well. And suspension, I think there's definitely some openings there for improvement.
Oh, that's very that's for sure. And if I'm allowed to get on a soapbox here, I think electronics, whichever way you look at it, is coming, and it's a thing. And obviously, it pains me a lot because I like and appreciate the simplicity of a bicycle. But if you think about what's happening in the real world, be it augmented reality, virtual reality, etc., then there's so much more that will come in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think what we are seeing today in terms of electronics, live valve and axis and all that sort of stuff, that in a couple of years' time we look back on this and it looks like a kindergarten party. I'm thinking, a friend of mine works in this industry, so has a pretty clear view on where these things are going. And, he has visions of goggles and glasses with data overlays. So basically think about, you have sunglasses that have a trail forks overlay. You look at the mountain, you see exactly where the trails are. You have all your telemetry data from your bike. What is your suspension doing? What are your tires doing? What is your shifting doing? All that sort of stuff. And I think we see the grand unification of technology and data and the enjoyment of riding an actual bicycle. And with that, I shall get off my soapbox. Thank you very much.
But I think you have a point there, Pascal. I think the bicycle industry is heading towards, with the integration of electronics and data and everything like this, it's heading towards a consumer product type of idea. And I hope so, because there should be more people on bikes. And if it takes a little bit of technology to get us there, then we're all better for it. I've seen trends in the industry as well. Like I've also been following for quite a long time. And what I noticed a lot happened is you have like these breakthroughs, like extreme geometry, and then they get dialed right back and then kind of honed in. And what I think that's coming in the next few years is going to be basically more of the same that we have now, but some refinement. And what I mean by that is like maybe a little more robustness in the materials that we use, or we find ways that are manufacturing to save us a bit more money. Just small steps that just make things a little bit easier for producers and consumers as well.
Yeah, I think actually, if I can just jump in there, that's something I just thought about as well. I think the manufacturing process is something that's being looked at the moment. I mean, we've covered this before. People bringing production back home, for example. Sustainable, it may be more expensive, but the lead times are way less, so you can sell more, which is always good. And also the technology is developing, 3D printing, for example. I think that's also going to be something we can look forward to. I mean, I can't wait until I have a printer here and someone wants a frame, and I'll just be like, "Wow, let me just print you one out."
Yeah, I guess if we've obviously covered a lot of those takes and insights on what the trends are in the industry right now in the last episode. So we invite everyone to to have a listen to episode 1. Right on. I mean, let's as we said earlier. I mean, keep the feedback coming, keep the follow-up questions coming. We can always pick it up in future episodes or get back to you through our other channels, be it on socials or on the website. Let's now change tack a little bit and jump into our discussion around marketing, sponsorship, and social media that we have planned for today. I think is a pretty exciting topic. I know that our global head of the engineering department, our young friend here, Bryson, he feels very strongly about marketing and mountain biking, and I think we wanted to start the discussion with a hot take. Bryson, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I just want to make sure everyone checks out my Shredded on YouTube, because it's the new hotness. Joking aside, James, I'm really glad to have you on the episode for this second episode, because the topic of marketing is something that I think really applies to you. I've cruised through your Instagram, your website, and you market very well. You are definitely a professional at marketing and sales, and it shows through these two channels at least. However, I've got a little bit of a tiff with marketing, and I've sort of developed this, probably over the last 5 years or so, where I've just noticed, such a trend of marketing and shred-its. And while the content is spectacular, and I give a lot of credit to these photographers and videographers, they are doing amazing work. Just some of the best, coolest stuff I've seen, even through against other industries. I just kind of feel that a lot of the way mountain biking is portrayed is not real. It's a little bit sensationalized, and you have these fantastically skilled athletes doing all of these tricks. And to get back to the point, it's
okay. Bryson, hang on. Why don't you take the blue corner, and James, you take the red corner, and James, what do you got on this? Fight it out.
I mean, put it this way: from a business point of view, marketing is about sales. If you want to run a business, you have to sell. That's point. There's no other way. So you use marketing to get your message out there, to gauge people's interest, to get them on your homepage, to get them to look at your products. So marketing is very aesthetical. It has to do with how things look. And if you look at an end consumer, for example, you don't have long to impress them. You've probably got a couple of seconds, especially in today's environment where we have access to so much information. You go on Instagram and you just flip through, and you probably don't like everything you come across. So, I use marketing and brands use marketing to really gauge that person's interest. So it has to be aesthetical. It has to have this kind of, wow, that's cool. And then afterwards, once you've gauged someone's interest, then they probably start to delve a bit deeper into what it is, what type of bike it is, how much travel does it have, what are the angles, and all of this kind of stuff. But it's very aesthetical. You need it. It's very competitive out there. And if you don't do it, you will most likely not get anywhere.
I get the fact that people want to kind of feel like they are this superstar, when they're flying down the hill. Maybe you can give us one specific example of something that you try to portray in the marketing that you do for your company and your brands that you represent.
What I aim for, I use Instagram mainly. That's, I think, my most favorite medium to get my message out there. What I really go for is trying to make my like appearance, the way I present myself as a company, to look good, to look professional, and to look like when people buy something from me, they're getting something that's good quality.
And do you enlist any help?
No, I should do, because I don't really have enough time to do an amazing amount of marketing. I do come from that industry, so I do what I can. Of course, I could do a lot more, but it's also difficult. I have to spread myself across the whole of my business, so I need to focus on quite a few other things as well.
I noticed a while back you did a sweepstakes or giveaway for a saddle.
That's correct.
And it kind of blew up. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've done a few actually. The last one was for a Title handlebar and 25% off of a Piger frame. So how it works is you set this giveaway up. Actually, we did it through one of my riders, Mr. Flying Grizzly Bear. He posted that. So how it works is you do this offer, you do it for a certain amount of time. So then people have to follow me, follow him, leave a comment in their in the actual giveaway post, and tag 2 friends. So of course then these 2 friends see they've been tagged in something, so they go and have a look straight away. They say, oh cool, oh yeah, I want that, I want in on that as well. So they do the same. So it's a great way to generate a following, to get people engaged and to follow your brand.
So you mentioned Flying Grizzly Bear. He's a freestyle athlete, and he also he's also got some great content out there. What attracted you to working with him as opposed to maybe some other people in the scene looking to gain some attention? What does it take to work with Bike the World for an athlete?
At the moment, so that's an interesting question, because things have changed quite substantially in the last couple of years, and I'm not particularly keen on the word influencer, but I think that's what a lot of people are looking for these days, and I know athletes aren't particularly keen on that word either. But it comes back to marketing, and it comes back to sales, and it comes back to trying to drive people to your products. And someone who has a big following, has large engagement with people, and can promote your product is potentially very interesting, because these days you can hook your web shop up straight to a post. So you can have a picture or a video of a bike, a brand, someone doing some funky tricks, and they can click on a product and go straight to your web shop. And so that also increases, your sales and interest. So these kind of things are key. What's maybe a bit sadder when it comes to, I'd say, modern marketing is I think it's increasingly more difficult for athletes who purely want to race, want to do the best they can, want to get good results, and maybe aren't very interested in being on social media and being out there and promoting themselves. I think it's becoming increasingly difficult. I mean, back in the day when I started, that's what we looked for. We looked for guys who were, winning the slopestyle contests or winning the downhill races, and that's who we were going after, and that's who the end consumer was looking at. Hey, my local guy, he just won, the Swiss Downhill Cup, for example, and hey, what's he riding? Hey, check his bike out. Look what he's got on there, and that's what was working. But I find it's becoming increasingly more difficult unless you're right at the top, unless you're winning World Cup races. It's more difficult, but guys doing that will have a team who are taking care of their social media and their marketing for them.
Okay. There's a flip side to that, right? So there's on the one hand, of course, social media is clearly where the most interest is right now. And you're saying that yes, for athletes and like racer types, it's increasingly difficult to make an impression in that space, and I fully agree. But there's also the side of the more traditional marketing channels and community engagement. So someone like that is maybe not the top racer, but he's like super involved in the local community. He has he has a lot of friends in high places, let's call it that way, etc. What is your take on that? Is that still value to a brand or value to a business in terms of marketing, or is that train has left the station, so to speak?
No, I think that still has value. I mean, I don't work with any riders quite that high up. I tend to focus on my market and what works in my market. I do think it's still there, but I do think there's definitely a change happening, and I think there's a lot of companies out there looking for people, especially young people who know their way around social media. I mean, there's very, very little books written on this kind of thing. I know it's happening now, and you can take courses, but it's very much something that the younger generation understands, and us old farts don't. So I think there is a change there, but I think networking is most likely also does drive sales as well. Word of mouth. If I sell someone a wheel set and they're really happy with the service, of course he's going to go and tell all his friends, hey, you need to get in touch with this guy. He'll hook you up, kind of thing. I think that's still there.
I guess that's the value of social media to us old farts. Is of course when we're like super happy with a product, and I'm just noting that from myself or similar aged. I
think I'm the oldest fart here.
Could be.
I think Bryson's hasn't reached that level yet. Have you?
No,
I'm still dynamic.
There
You're
go.
just a fart.
But what I was trying to say is that that's obviously the power of the social media, and obviously staying on top of those trends, right? Because even if you're not a top racer, you don't have the most fantastic social media following, but if you have someone that is happy with his product, he's more happy to share about his experience, about the product itself. He maybe takes a photo of it in like a fantastic location, a nice photo, and then feels the urge to post that to social media, like I do sometimes. But and then obviously that's stuff that you can reuse and hopefully channel through your through your media presence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, stuff like that's great, and that's, I mean, there's the power of social media. And for example, an end consumer taking a nice photo of his brand new wheel set, by the Matterhorn or with the Matterhorn in the background. It's and you repost it. It's for free generally, and it gauges people interest as well. So it's definitely an interesting topic. I mean, if I look at another big marketing topic, I mean, 10 years ago we were printing catalogs. Filling shops with catalogs, sending out a lot of print media, and I've noticed that's also something that's I think dwindling. I know a lot of people still do it. I don't. I don't feel there's a need for a catalogue at the moment. First of all, there's an environmental aspect. There's a cost aspect. And if anyone wants to go and check out my stuff, they can do it online. And most people spend probably far too much time with their noses in their phones these days. So the information's available to go and have a look at there. And on that note, I have a B2B platform for my dealers as well. So they can go online and they can have a look what we have in stock and order it. They see their prices and they can order everything straight online. So I think it's changing. There's a big change happening. I even built for one of my customers a specific pre-order platform and a function which allows them to change between their price and the end consumer price, the retail price, so they can actually browse through the product lineup on a computer with the customer, and the customer wouldn't, for example, see the shop price. So there's interesting things happening there.
What do you mean the shops are not doing that for free?
What, letting people browse? Yes, they are.
Oh, buying stuff.
Buying stuff for free. Yeah, it's only you that gets stuff for free, Pascal.
I wish. This is still a very expensive hobby. Maybe a final point on this from my side is, you said earlier that the old fart repost, the old fart posting on social media about his fantastic new wheel set or his shiny black new handlebar. That's great for you because it's free marketing, because you can just repost it. Mm-hmm. There's obviously another side to that, and it's clearly the marginal value of any more pictures is pretty low. And there's also, I think, the big challenge for sponsored riders, especially at the top end, when you think, how much time they need to spend to, and you said it yourself, how much time you need to spend to curate your Instagram feed or other social media feed, and I think that's a topic we can also pick up later. And what we mean with curating, but how much time these athletes have to spend on this, and because it's just part of the job. But if you're someone that is towards the top end of the sport, so let's say a top 10 rider in the World Cup downhill, top 20 rider in cross country, it's called names, right? Lucas Huppert, right? Top 10 rider in crankworks, stuff like that, right? The amount of time they spend on it, that's all time that they can spend on training, that they can spend on, recovering if it's an endurance athlete. They can spend it on progressing the sport. So it's basically, they spend loads of time on something that is not very productive. And I think there's also a reason why, for example, that superstars like Roger Federer or Cristiano Ronaldo or Lewis Hamilton, I'm pretty confident in saying that they are not dealing with their own social media. And I think the point I want to make is that it's a sign of the sport and of the industry that we are talking about right here, is that, overall, like, the income levels are just too pedestrian for the athletes to actually have someone that that does it for them. So it kind of, in a sense, it almost waters down their performance on the bike because they can't spend enough time on that. So that's, I think, personally, as an athlete, I would be very careful with balancing the amount of time I spend with social media and the rabbit hole that it really is.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's hugely time consuming. So if you want to be a professional athlete, it's very difficult to get to actually to be able to do it. I mean, if you have to practice every day, or you have to spend 6 hours a day working out, it doesn't leave much time for anything else, especially not social media. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult one, and I think as it progresses and it grows, and it gets to the monster it is already actually. Brands are looking for influencers, are looking for people who want to go out, post, and represent, and make their main focus about social media, not about racing.
This presents a very particular or peculiar circumstance, because as a young up-and-coming athlete or bike star, whatever you want to call it, you have to have this duality where you're an outstanding athlete as well as a social presenter, per se, or influencer. And as you pointed out, they're contradicting each other at some point in terms of the performance. So it'd be interesting if we can get athlete or somebody influencing on the channel to give their perspective on this.
I'm working on that as we speak.
We should look into this. Oh, okay. Well, stay tuned for further episodes. But it's a really interesting angle to hear from someone first-hand experience what
yeah, no, especially if you say what if what you say is true, that the marginal value of yet another post is close to zero, then if you're a top 10 World Cup rider, then why should I spend time on posting yet another picture? So again, I listen, as we said in the intro to the other episode, is I'm very passionate podcast listener. I've listened to a number of podcasts with photographers, for example, right? So I don't really see why someone like Sven Martin, who's already taking photos for a number of top riders, be it EWS or downhill, why they can't pay him an extra $100, per race weekend, or $200 or whatever the number is. And then he gets access to their social profiles, and then he does all the photo posting for them, because they're just reposting whatever he sends them anyway.
I think that's a valid point, actually, and it just made me wonder if it's going to go in that direction, because I think it'd be really sad if people stopped racing and stopped competing because no one wants to sponsor them.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a hypothetical scenario, by the way. So I just one idea cropped into my head is does it make sense for an athlete to join a team who then has a manager who can really take time to cover that aspect? That could also be something that's quite interesting for a brand. You have a team and you have someone who's running the social media, and the athletes are just being athletes. They don't need to worry about social media or anything. They just need to worry about being the best they can be. So that's a valid point. That's quite interesting, actually.
I guess the challenge with that is, and obviously there's always a challenge, is that what you lose is the authenticity of the social media, right? So you lose that social capital that you have with interacting with an athlete directly. When you reply to a photo, you send a comment, you send a message or whatever, and you think you're actually interacting with Aaron Gwynn, let's say, and you're super pumped about getting a reply from Aaron Gwynn personally because you send him a message, and then you find out like 10 minutes later that, oh man, that's just a social media manager. That obviously kind of is the flip side to that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, I guess what another topic I want to explore a little bit is, we said earlier you're working with a lot of athletes here in Switzerland, and you're focusing mainly on slopestyle riders and free ride riders. Just for the record, free ride is not dead, so they are still out there. flying grizzly bear, come at me. And you work with, let's say, more the extreme end of the sport, let's say. And what drives that decision?
I don't only work with I would say, slopestyle riders, free ride riders. I do sponsor some. I do still sponsor riders who are interested in racing, actually. But I mean, the big reason I probably invest more in the kind of slopestyle free ride type rider is the backflips. All about the backflips. I mean these guys doing a backflip. Yeah, I pay per backflip.
That can get expensive. I mean, I saw.
It's not much. It's not much.
There's the other guy that did the triple flip the other day. Gets expensive really fast.
So no, I mean the big driver for me to work with riders is like that. Is it's pure marketing, as we were discussing before. You get a little video clip of someone pulling a backflip on a 29 enduro bike, and that's like, whoa, that's cool, and it gauges people's interest. When I look at it, I want to be able to do that. I'll probably have to lay off the beer, but I think that's what kind of gets people stoked on riding. Also saying, there's quite a few cool videos of people, ripping burns and drifting nicely and all that kind of stuff, and that works as well. But it is the kind of extreme cool factor which works. Having a video of me riding uphill and that's it is probably less interesting than having one of my younger riders doing a backflip.
Oh yeah, no, fully agree. And what is your take on? So yeah, we said quite a few slopestyle riders, and of course I follow most of these guys too, and because as you say, it is inspiring. It is pretty crazy what they can do, and I could never see myself throwing myself over these jumps. But
we're just too tall, Pascal. Let's leave it
at
that. We're way too tall.
Exactly. It's my heavy bones and my dislocated center of gravity. But what I was trying to say is that what is your take on there's an opportunity for someone like the younger Swiss slopestylers to also bring in a more Swiss angle, let's say, because I look at these profiles and I follow Emil Johansson, Brett Reeder, and Semenuk, the usual guys, and at the end of the day, they all look pretty much the same. And I would think there is an opportunity to stand out in that space by bringing in. I don't say you need to have like a cow or do a cheese roll or whatever, but to bring in a little bit more of the local flavor and to not only showcase your skills but also maybe some of the unique countryside and mountainside and riding infrastructure that we have here in Switzerland.
Well, first of all, cheese rolling comes from Gloucestershire in England. But
thanks for clarifying that, James.
That aside, you should watch that. That's nuts. Anyway, that aside, I think there's huge potential. Actually, we have the terrain here. We have the mountains. We have the possibilities to get up into the mountains. I took a few Canadians around Vallis a couple of years back, and they were surprised how far up our lifts go. I think in Canada, you correct me if I'm wrong, Bryson, but you're not allowed to build above 1,500 meters. Is that true? I
don't know this rule.
Okay. Well, they were telling me they were just astounded by the infrastructure, and they're like, "Wow! I mean, there is nothing too high or too steep in this country." So yeah, there's a huge huge possibility here. And one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of bike parks popping up. I think maybe even 5 years ago that was still a little bit of a sore subject. I think one issue here is land rights. A lot of land is privately owned in the mountains, so you just can't build a trail anywhere unless it's your land. Although even if it is your land, you need to get a permit for it. So it's exploded, and I think now there's a huge population. There's huge potential to kind of push Switzerland as a riding mecca. To really say, hey, here we are, look what we've got, and really show the world that Switzerland is here and we have some of the best riding on the planet. I do find these days marketing is very US, Canada based. I've noticed we're starting to get quite a bit out of the UK and New Zealand, Norway, Sweden pop up quite a bit. But I think there's jättebra. Yeah. So I think I think there's huge potential here, and people need to get out there and do that. Of course, there's also a money question. You need to have the money to get a film crew, you need to have experience to know what you're doing, but I do think it's slightly underrepresented. I think everyone knows Switzerland and they all know the riding here is second to none, but I think from a marketing aspect a bit more could be done actually.
No, it's just on the point that you mentioned with the private land ownership and stuff. So I know from one particular trail that is about to be built. I think this year. I'm not going to name the destination. It's a very famous trail. It may or may not be an IMDA trail. They're building a new trail that goes along it to divert some of the foot traffic. And apparently on a 3 and a bit kilometer stretch of the trail, there's 160 landowners.
Wow.
And they need to talk to all of those guys and need to get them all on the same page so they can build the trail.
You just need one of them to say no.
Exactly. That's why it took so long. But yeah, no. So I think the just to finish up what you said, you make an interesting point. But I think what is also important to add to that equation is that you need to know what the destination wants to portray itself. What they want to achieve, what kind of riders they want to attract. Right. So I know, for example, one of my favorite riding destinations is Davos, and their PR, they don't necessarily want like this extreme ridership. So that we know from Lenzerheide. Lenzerheide has the bike park, it has the World Cup downhill, it has all the other trails in the bike park, and Davos kind of wants to separate itself from that a little bit and kind of branding itself for like the technical trail connoisseurs kind of destination. They don't want the racer type really, and that's what they invest quite a bit of money in. But I guess, as you say, I mean, there's a big opportunity for some of those riders to work with the destinations to get the message out and produce some cool content.
Yeah, sure. And what you said about divorce sounds interesting. I think diversity is something that could really, as from a marketing point of view, I think diversity in the different types of riding available here, whether it's the thousands of pump tracks being built or have been built, to single trail, to enduro, I've ridden some trails here which I just don't want to ride again. They were too dodgy. And then there's the whole downhill, there's the bike parks. Not only that, gravel is a huge scene here as well. Road biking. I mean, there's loads and loads of passes over the Alps. Just need to make sure you don't get run over by a Porsche. But I think there's this huge diversity here, and Switzerland's quite densely populated. Everything's pretty close, so I think there's huge opportunities here to really push that as, you know, a very bike-friendly country.
Absolutely, and that's obviously also, you know, something we we try to explore with this podcast is obviously exactly to, you know, to talk about how fantastic it is, and so how people can find out a little bit where they can go, what are the spots for which type of riding, you know, who are the people that they need to talk to, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 5 or 6 trails just behind my house, you know, up on the local Zurich Hill. And everyone around here knows about them, but I have a lot of buddies who come from other parts of Switzerland, and they're always like blown away. They're like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you guys have this kind of riding in Zurich, you know, the biggest city in Switzerland." So it's I think there's definitely potential.
I will concur. Coming from British Columbia, I rode across the sea to sky and in some other interior areas. And I do have my favorite spots. Of course, I always knew Switzerland as being a mountain country with the Alps and the alpine riding and such, but I never really understood the diversity and the complexity and how many trails there are. Because essentially you can ride your bike on almost any Wanderweg, which is a hiking trail. But also, I mean, you can just use these as access basically, because there are so many other mountain bike specific trails as well. And they do have everything that you can look for, from really rough, rocky stuff to flow and, even duff and the loam that's so mysterious and sought after. And I'm continuously blown away by all of the various trail conditions and types of trail features that I find when I'm riding around here.
Absolutely, you make a fantastic point, right? I mean, we're obviously also very fortunate. I mean, if I peek over the border to Germany and remind myself of the trail rules in Baden-Württemberg, with its 2-meter rule that you're not allowed to ride on any path or trail that's below 2 meters wide, etc., and only has relatively limited bike infrastructure. I know Freiburg in Breisgau has some trails, and there's obviously Tottenau, who's very famous. But I think we do have it really, really, really good here, and obviously in Zurich with the local community and spending quite a bit of time on extending that network and effort into the marketing of new projects and making sure that they get the necessary funding and buy-in from all the stakeholders, including obviously the landowners and the city itself, that appreciates the mountain bike community and what it brings to city life, really. Because maybe apart from the North Shore in Vancouver, which other destination in a relatively big city do you know where you can, within more or less the city limits, you can ride on, decent trails that have some that are reasonably good to challenge pretty much every skill level, and I think that's something we also need to highlight a little bit more, I think.
For sure.
I think that opens up a lot of possibility for some listeners to get in touch with us, because we would definitely like to know if you are living in a city or even a smaller one, do you have trail access right outside your door? Do you have, maybe around 500 meters or so, or even more, that you can just start climbing right after you get home from work, or maybe right out the back door of your work on the ride home? For sure, there's lots of places like this, and of course we're only human. We can't explore every place, but it would definitely be interesting to hear from the viewers or the listeners.
All right, maybe to finish up the sponsorship topic, I just have two more questions. There is obviously the follow through between the riders that you sponsor, that you promote on your channels, and then on the other end is obviously the people that look at those pictures and videos. And how do you see the transmission from, one of those young kids doing a double backflip and an old fart like me buying a nice wheel set?
I think seeing something like that gets you stoked to go riding. You might not necessarily, or you might be thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that too. But you might not. You might just. I think it gets you stoked to go riding. I mean, if I think to back in the day with like snowboard videos, we'd watch snowboard videos on Friday, and we were so pumped to go on Saturday morning that we couldn't sleep. So I think it has that aspect. I think you see these things, you see these young kids doing these things. I think if you're young, I think it really motivates you to get into that and try those sorts of things. I think for us, we might have come to terms. I've come to terms with it anyway, that we won't be doing that sort of thing.
Why not?
Well,
age is only a number, James.
If I was really drunk, perhaps, then I'll do anything. But I think just seeing that, I think it just gets you stoked to ride and to see what's going on. It definitely gets me stoked to ride. I watch that and I'm like, no, I need to go out. And, it might be a day where it's pouring with rain and I wasn't really planning on going riding, but, I watched a few videos and I'm like, hey, let's go. I had a good one the other day. I mean, it was snowing like crazy. I woke up in the morning. I was, flipping through Instagram, and we had nothing planned with the family. It was a Sunday morning, and I'm like, why am I sitting here doing this, watching all of these people riding bikes? And got my winter gloves on and some other clothes, and off I went. And I had a great time. I mean, the snow was too deep on the trail to actually go anywhere, but
he took some nice photos, that's for sure.
There you go. I did take some photos, but no, actually just coming down the dirt track, which was covered in snow, was pretty fun.
Pretty spicy.
So, yeah, exactly. But that it got me out there. It got me riding, and it's that's what you need. And once you've done that in the morning, the day is perfect afterwards.
Absolutely.
So it's motivation, my friend.
Right. So I think we're coming to the end of our time here a little bit. So I just want to wrap up with one little discussion, maybe as a takeaway for listeners, maybe the younger listeners that want to get into the sport and look for support, etc. I think we want to do a little with you a little exercise of like, what are your sponsorship do's and don'ts? So maybe as a do, how can a young rider today, how can he can he stand out? How can he make an impression? What are you looking for when you look for new riders?
Do something original. That always stands out. I've noticed this. If you talk about jibbing these days, this it's a pretty new thing. Or not that new, but it's been around in snowboarding for a while.
It's new in mountain biking. It's been around in skateboarding, BMX.
Yeah, exactly. These little quirky things it's people notice, and these things. That's another point. These things can also be achievable by us mere mortals as well. So that's always fun. That's interesting. It's original. I think promoting yourself, I think being prepared, if you want to ask a brand about sponsorship, it's super important you're prepared. You have a dossier with information about you, what you do, what you ride, what your plans are. This is hugely important because you have to think of it as like an interview, really. I have been contacted by people before and like, I'm interested in sponsoring. My name is this, I'm this old, and I ride this. And I'm like, okay.
Thanks for that. Next.
Well, good for you. Thanks for getting in touch. But it's you got to promote yourself, and you have to really show someone that you can do it. You need to make it interesting. if someone wants to give you some parts or sponsor you in whichever way, it needs to be worth it for them. I do sometimes think there's people out there who think we are absolutely loaded with cash.
Well, we covered that in the first
bike
episode.
Parts don't, yeah, exactly. Bike parts don't cost any money, and yeah, why wouldn't you give me something? So that is definitely a big don't. Another don't, I would say, this doesn't always apply, but or a do perhaps, is keep it professional. If you like doing crazy things in your spare time when you've been out drinking and stuff like that, then maybe keep that separate from your
legal name,
or shall we say, yeah, from your profile that you're kind of going to promote. I see it less these days, but I think probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I saw it a bit too more. Some riders doing very unrelated bike things on their social media profiles, and as I might think it's cool, a lot of other mountain bikers might think it's cool, but you have to realize there might be some people out there who don't think it's so cool. And if it's a young kid who wants to get into biking and wants his mum and dad to buy some cool parts, and then the mum and dad see, maybe some questionable behavior happening, that might deter them. They might then think, I don't know if I want my kids hanging around with this crowd, kind of thing. So that's what I always recommend when I start working with a rider. Post stuff that you think is going to work for everyone, that everyone's going to think, cool. If you want to post crazy things, and we've all done it, and share it with your friends and stuff, do that, but then don't share it with the world, kind of thing.
Are you also working with riders that you take on to, let's say, clean up their social media profile?
No, I leave that up to them, actually. It's something I always look at when someone gets in touch, and to see, you can see very quickly if someone's taking it seriously or not. So it's something I look at. It's something I always meet and have a chat with my riders, and I do mention these points. Most of them will tell you I'm not always the best behaved person when it comes to nights out. But yeah, we keep it among us adults and among us friends. Don't get me wrong, I don't do really bad things. Shall we say silly behavior? But it's always something to think about. It's always something to think, how do I want to portray myself? Maybe you do want to portray yourself as some crazy Hell's Angel type, then go for it. But you might find a lot of brands maybe aren't that interested in being associated with that.
Okay, yeah, I think that those are some good tips for guys out there that want to get involved in this. And hopefully also some actionable ideas to maybe look at your own profile and clean that up before you approach someone again, if you for some new parts, new wheels, new frames, etc. Bryson, do you have anything more that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, Pascal, when are we going to do episode 3?
Well, I would say, we said this is going to be a trilogy with James because we have so much material. So let's just keep the schedule, and let's get going again next week.
Come on, guys! It's like 11 Star Wars movie. We can do more than 3.
All right, let's take up that challenge. James, maybe just to close out, let people know again where they can find you if they want to find out more or want to send in their resume.
biketheworld.ch is how you get in touch with me. There's a contact form on our site, and you can get in touch if you have any questions or want to talk to me.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much again for your time. This has been, again, another fantastic, I think, conversation, and I'm looking forward to next week when we talk again. Bryson, thank you for your time. James, talk to you next time.
Thank you very much, guys.
Pleasure.
Talk to you soon.